have to deal with as governor, and something we've unfortunately seen too many of in the last year are deaths of police officers around the state. What are you thinking as far as, is there anything the state can do to help local law enforcement? We've had several of these police shootings in the last year now.
Well, I haven't really looked at our statutes for protecting our police officers, but I can tell you this, they know I have their back. I have shown that by my actions probably more than my words. It's sad to say I can't remember how many funerals I've been to now during the transition and as governor. I make very low-key entrance and exits at those services because I'm not there to do anything other than to let people know that I know what that community is going through. I know what that family is going through. And we just have to have those men and women, we have to have their back that are out there fighting for us. And look, like politicians, not every police officer or law enforcement officer is a good person. There's people that make mistakes and go too far. But, our folks are out there literally every day putting their lives on the line every day, day in, day out, very unappreciated in certain communities. And we're a state that appreciates our veterans, our active duty military, our National Guard, and our first responders, police, fire, EMS. And I heard stories the other day about people pouring buckets of water on police officers up in New York. That is outrageous. There are other ways to handle a political situation or something that may be going on, and I'm just proud that we're not going to do that in Georgia.
Amen. Governor, I know that has to be one of the hardest parts of being governor is comforting those families and those communities. But you've also having to deal with still the situation down in South Georgia where they had a natural disaster come through in the form of a hurricane. A lot of farmers have lost crops. Bankruptcies have gone up in that area. What do you as governor do when you assess the situation, particularly because the hurricane came through in someone else's administration, and yet there's still ongoing problems down there?
Yeah, that was a very frustrating situation. I know Senator Perdue is going to be here a little later in the day, I believe.
Yeah, tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning. And I will tell you, him and Senator Isaacson both were fighting very hard, I think, in a very tough political environment. It's sick to say in our country right now that disaster relief would get political, but it did, and it was very frustrating for me. I vented that frustration many times to the media and to others in Washington, and I spoke many times with the Vice President and the President. They were fully supportive of what we were trying to do in Georgia and certainly Florida, and really disaster relief in other parts of the country. But it was a frustrating position for me because literally our state had done just about everything we could, funding state dollars first to help in a small way. And I think the best thing was just, the people down there knew we were fighting for them. I think that held their morale together. Once the bill got passed, they know, there's going to be funds flowing. It's just a matter of when. And they're resilient people down there. But literally I was down there recently. I just drove through there the last couple of days. And there's generational losses down there when you think about pecan farmers that their whole orchard was wiped out, or 60% of it, or 70 or 80%. Devastating crop losses last year when yields were going to be as good as we've ever seen them in Georgia. So it was a really tough issue. We got to keep fighting for them. I think that makes, what we're doing with our focus on the strike team and the Department of Economic Development to let people know. And this is not something you're going to fix in a year or two. We're going to have to work on this every year, the whole time I'm in office, and I'm committed to doing that. And I'll actually be back down there again next week. So showing up matters. Showing up matters to keep learning, to keep figuring out what can we do. How do we value add an agricultural product and figure out how we can talk, some manufacturing business that they're about to run out of California or somewhere else to come into Georgia, or growing jobs in our state, and really trying to figure that out. But I will say this, you got to have local communities that want to be involved in that effort. It never works when the state's trying to go push something to the local community. We got to have that local partnership where they believe in it. They'll get their workforce ready. They'll rally their community around and put some of their money where their mouth is as well, even if they don't have a lot, just something that shows that everybody is committed. Because we're dealing with a deal right now that would be a great deal in rural Georgia, but there's not buy-in from the locals, and it's probably not going to work. And that's frustrating for me, but that's just the way of the world.
I have to say, when you said it, I had to look around and make sure my wife isn't in the room, that you and she agree on the pronunciation of pecan.
Well, it's very, very simple. It's pecan or pecan.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to get high prices, it's pecan.
Well,
if you're in South Georgia, it's this pecan tree, right?
It's
all about marketing.
I always say that's what you flush. That's fine. She's not here to hear that. Now, I want to turn a little bit to the future. It's very interesting to note, after the tough campaign you fought, your polling and job approval numbers among independents, moderates, Republicans, even Democrats has gone up now significantly, well above 50% now, in the top quartile of governors nationwide. And you've only really been in the office for 8 months, so you've still got 3.5 years to push your agenda. What comes next for the governor's office?
It'd be nice if we were like some of these other countries, just call the election right now. Well, I think, people that know me, know this. Others that are here from out of state, maybe not. But I've been a small business person for over 30 years. My wife and I both have had to fight through some really hard times. We've seen our ups and downs. We have, you say 3 teenage daughters. Jarrett just turned 20, so we got 2 teenage daughters and 1 20-year-old. And last night at 9 o'clock, I was at my daughter's apartment taking some piece of furniture out of a box that had 10,000 screws. So that kind of stuff keeps me humble. But just the life experiences that I've been through, I know there's other Georgians that have gone through that. I really felt like the last campaign, it was a fight for the soul of our state and where we're going to go. We're either going to go in this direction or we're going to go in this direction. I think you're seeing the same thing in the presidential race right now. We're either going to continue to be a capitalist country, economic prosperity where anybody, literally anybody, can do anything they want, or whether you're going to have the government running everything in your life. And that's what I'm fighting so hard for every day. And I'll promise you, nobody's going to outwork us. So I would just say I don't really care what any polls are saying. I think most people have figured out by now the things that I campaigned on, I aim on doing those. And that's what we're doing every day. We're focusing on that teacher pay raise. We're focusing on the strike team to help with economic development in other parts of the state. Focusing on getting high-speed internet to areas that don't have it, good jobs and opportunity. We didn't even talk about public safety, but going after these street gangs and drug cartels. When the campaign started, you couldn't even get the press or the media to write about that. Now it's almost daily that you're seeing these things. And, we've got to stay focused on that. I assure you that Vic Reynolds, our new director of GBI, Marty and I visited with them on Friday at a sting operation they were doing going after sexual predators. They arrested 9 people. One person that just got out of prison who had a murder charge, I believe, got out of prison and was trying to hook up with a 14-year-old girl. Now imagine what would have happened to that child had he gotten to her. But thankfully, those men and women in law enforcement were staying up till 2 and 3, 4 o'clock in the morning going after these people. And we got a bunch of them last weekend. Those are the kind of things that we're just going to stay after it every day and do what we said we're going to do. And I've always been a firm believer that, if you run on something and you actually do it, then people will reward you with that. And if they don't, then I can go home knowing that I did what I said I was going to do.
Let me ask you lastly, before we run out of time. So yeah, I know it wasn't supposed to happen, but I was shocked last week down in Macon. We went out to dinner and streets were closed down because they were filming movies down there. And up at my office just the other day, they had one of the roads blocked off at Ansley Park because they were filming a movie up there. I thought Hollywood was going to run away from Georgia and business was going to flee, and yet I can't get around the city because all these movies are being filmed.
Well, you know, I think, Eric, I've been pretty clear about my positions on the heartbeat bill and supporting the film industry in Georgia. As a conservative Republican, I believe that we can do both of those things. A lot of the people that, you know, pushed and voted for the film tax credit that has really gotten us here where we are also supported the heartbeat bill. I mean, those are Georgia values. We can't run from those. We shouldn't. That's what makes our state great. But I'm also not an angry person, you know, and I support the film industry, the people that are making business decisions. They know the environment's good here. We have the infrastructure. We have the workforce. We've been on the cutting edge of that. I'm going to continue to spread that message, and they know that. You know, there's other people politically that are pushing a different narrative that's actually, I think, hurting the industry more than any piece of legislation that was passed, but that's politics. They don't care about the industry. They care about their own personal politics, and it's more than one person that's doing that. But I think people that look at Georgia, they know what we have to offer, and the folks that we've been meeting with quietly and talking to, which is numerous, still are big believers in Georgia, and you know, I'm going to continue to support them, and that's just what we're going to do. And I think that, you know, some may not want to work here, but I believe there's a lot that will.
I think there are. Governor Brian Kemp, thank you for stopping by this morning.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
No, I enjoyed it. Thank you.